Joe Papano from Fiberlink Communications. Thanks for us at our monthly Getting Started with MaaS360 webinar. As usual, we've got Val Hetrick, our Director of Customer Engineering, here to demonstrate how you can get the most out of MaaS360 if you're currently in the middle of an evaluation, or just learn more if you're currently using the product or educating yourself about the MDM space. So Val's going to walk through a couple of slides just to get everybody oriented. I'm going to actually provide a hands-on demonstration of how you set up and set MaaS360 and enroll mobile devices. Well, I think we'll be enrolling an iPhone and an Android today.
That's correct.
And of course, if you've got any questions, feel free to send them in via chat or the QA panel here in WebEx, and Val and I will kind of get to those right after the webinar. So thanks for joining, Val. Thanks for hosting again today.
Thank you. So as Joe indicated, today we're going to learn how to get started with MaaS360 for mobile device management. Stole my agenda, but now that you've signed up for your free evaluation, it's time to learn how to make the most of it. Today we'll provide a quick overview of setting up the basics for your MaaS360 portal, configuring it for some of the advanced mobile device management settings. We will cover configuring the MaaS services, upload APNS for iOS device management, enrollment settings, an iOS and an Android device, how to manage the advanced policies, and touch on some of our device groups and actions for a device. Into the session, I did just quickly want to review the MaaS360 mobile device management cloud-based infrastructure. The Manager requires our Cloud Extender software to interface with your Exchange server, your Lotus Traveler server, or your BlackBerry Enterprise server. The requires an APNS from Apple, but it does provide your enhanced policy options as well as selective wipe capabilities. Will require a lightweight agent from the marketplace and opens additional Android policy options through their APIs like device location. Managed in a single window with access to mobility intelligence dashboards as well as various reports. Go ahead and jump into the session now, and if you do have questions or want to see a specific scenario, as mentioned, just type that request in chat, and we can also do any type of follow-ups afterwards if there's additional items you are interested in. Give me 1 second, I'm just going to share my desktop. Just to set the stage, what I've done so far is signed up on MaaS360.com under Tools and Trials section. There you can sign up for iOS, Android, ActiveSync, or Traveler. And I'm really going to just walk through the steps. Right at our home page, and the first thing we're going to do is configure the MaaS360 services. Into a screen, you can upload your APNS from Apple. Enabled by default. Bear with me a moment, I might have gotten myself timed out here. Information on the APNS. APNS is required to use the Apple Push Notification Service. There's a page you can go to .apple.com to sign up for that particular item. If you have it, it's as easy as creating a cert in your environment. So you go and browse into that particular, I keep my certificate. Select that, and then we need to copy in our certificate password. So we're going to click Save. Then provide us with notification of success, and you can see my Apple certificate topic that we configured for this, and the expiration date. You see on the screen that mobile device management for Android is already enabled, and I want wanted to, for my Exchange 2007 and 2010 or my Lotus Traveler 8.5 environments, could use the Cloud Extender. We're going to do another day, and I'm going to click the Close button to return to the home screen. Configure your device enrollment settings. The settings are used to get the information down to the device to enroll your users into your iOS or Android management. You provide a corporate identifier that can be used with enrollment. To make this shorter, going to S3, getting started 3. Then to select your authentication mode for device enrollment. Normally, the evaluations, our customers will use a unique passcode to send to their devices via email or SMS to enroll their users. You select to use authentication against your corporate Active Directory. This also requires a Cloud Extender to be installed in your environment to pass authentication to your servers, or you can select to do a two-factor authentication. The option you can set is to distribute Exchange settings for mail accounts to your iOS devices. For the demo, I'm going to use one of our demo areas here and go ahead and set this up. And from having to give out your ActiveSync settings directly to your end users. It will allow you to customize a corporate usage policy and to customize your corporate support information for end users. I'm going to save button again to be returned to the home screen. At this point, we're ready to start enrolling our devices. Free to enroll a mobile device. I'm prompted for my information. Device. I'm going to enter my information. Information will also be what is used to configure any email or wireless or VPN settings as well. Your ownership, whether it's a corporate or employee owned, and select your policy. Notification mechanism perspective, we allow you to send an email to the user, and the email will contain the passcode. You can copy yourself as the administrator in case that user needs some assistance. If you do have a device that has a phone number, you can send an SMS. That doesn't have a SIM at the moment, so you will have to suffer me typing through a couple things here. But I'm going to bring up my iPhone interface here, and we're just using a jailbroken phone to be able to use VNC to show our demonstration. But go ahead into Safari here. I'm going to type the URL that's provided, and then we'll walk through the overall enrollment process. Within terms and agreements, click Start. That will bring us in to enter the passcode. And these are unique passcodes that are good for one-time use. They will expire after 7 days if the user doesn't complete the request. Directory authentication. On this screen, you would be entering your username and password on your Active Directory to continue with the enrollment process. Selected the terms and agreement, and now I'm going to install the MDM profile. Actually, is opting you in to the MaaS360 management device administrator. So we're going to generate a few keys, and after generation is complete, the policies will be pushed down to the phone. Now, the default policy set is just a default policy. It's just blank for something for you to build off of, and we'll talk about policies in a little while. You'll see that you'll be able to, set passwords or change policies or various items that you may wish to block. Enrolling the certificate and installing the profile. Another warning just indicating that we're going to be the administrator and that we're able to collect details about your device and manage it. Through the SCEP enrollment process into the MDM options. And then we will bump into the Android afterwards. I'll make why we're waiting here is Apple does also require a TCP connection of 5223 out to their network to be able to communicate for policy management and for profile updates. That's just their standard notification push address or TCP port. The key is I'm now in a pending state in terms of my enrollment. This is completed. It'll go to complete, and I will be able to click on my device name. So here we got our done prompt, and we're now being told that we are a device is enrolled, and I have to make sure my device is enrolled by looking at the profiles that came down onto the phone. So here's our MDM profile and also our default iOS policy. That phone in a few moments, but if I click the refresh button, you'll see here that my iPhone has shown up in the process. One thing that is occurring is I am immediately being prompted to enter my Exchange password, which I'm going to cancel for the time being. But you know how simple it is after an enrollment to be able to set up your ActiveSync for one of your end users. Same thing on the Android. And I'm going to actually use the same information because I happen to have two devices. The other process is a little bit different in terms of there being an agent that needs to be installed on the phone. And I also have a QR reader installed on this particular device, which is going to make it a little bit easier for me to enroll. Android, click on my barcode scanner. So I can take a picture of this QR code. And you see that the URL shows up immediately for me to go right into my browser. Back it out to our services. Homepage, and essentially this is telling us we're going to go out and download the application from the marketplace, and download is complete. We'll enter our corporate identifier and our passcode to continue with the process. Downloaded, and if we pull a little notification bar here, we'll see that will come down. It should just be a moment over the wireless signal here. Completed. We'll go and click on it. So it's installed right now. The download is completed. And successfully installed. This will now take us into our particular settings. So we're going to enter our corporate identifier, which I defined as GS3. I'll enter my email address in the enrollment process. Button. Into the next screen where we need to enter our passcode, which is as quick as I can type. We'll hit continue. Accept the terms and agreements. Continue. Here we're going a list of everything that we're able to do on this particular device with the Google APIs. Activated. This is telling me that I've been activated. I can click the close button. If I go back to my home screen, I'm able to go and see that MaaS360 is now installed. I'll move that to my front page. If I click on MaaS360, you'll see the application information. So I can see my device is in compliance based on the policy. I get my corporate settings in terms of updating my MaaS account or setting some wireless settings up. The device details in terms of the device ID and when the last data upload was, as well as the policy information. I can also tell that real-time notification is enabled. Should be communicating properly to MaaS. So we'll minimize the Android there. We'll hit close on our enrollment. A refresh, and now I should see both of my devices. Also notice we can do bulk enrollments if you do select to use the passcode enrollment method. This is just a file that you would format and import into MaaS. So it does make it a little bit easier on the IT administrator. I'm on the home screen at this point, and we'll see here that my 2 devices have populated our watch list. Watch list is meant to give you brief pieces of information about your environment in terms of the overall protection. Here you see that 2 of my devices have registered in the last 7 days, and one does not have any type of passcode protection enabled. I can track devices with data sharing software, with encryption, enrolled with MaaS360 if there's active sync communication. The new things that we added in the watch list from our Getting Started webinar is the ability to add new items. So a particular piece of software that I wanted to look for on one of these phones that might be relevant to my environment, I enter a new watch list item in one of our various categories to do any type of selection from. And here I do my example software installed. I could do application name. I could do contains code scanner for my barcode scanner. List devices with barcode scanning. And then save that. And watch list item to this list here. My devices, if I click on this, would be Android. If there's one of the items you're not concerned about, you can delete it and the item from the watch list. The thing that you see there is the edit capability. One of the examples I can provide there is with data sharing software, we do a pretty good job of capturing the ones that are relevant out in the industry, but there might be other ones you want to look for. So here you easily add another item, see the information, and put your other data sharing software in there that you wanted to track. So the thing I'm going to hop into is our device policies. And we do create 2 default policies, one for iOS and one for Android. We have the ability to create a new policy set and allow you to assign to a new device in our actions when we take a look at that in a moment. But maybe I will say iOS corporate policy, which is common that our customers do. Lost one of my VNCs, so I'll hook that back up in a little while here. We're going to do iOS, and then we're going to keep off of our default policy. Here we'll continue, and this will create a new policy that we can edit. I'm going to hit the edit button to be able to configure the various pieces. So just looking through some of these items, enforce a passcode on the device, and just allow a simple passcode in this particular instance. Some of the more advanced features in terms of managing your passcode length, your number of special characters, passcode age expiration, and also number of failed passcodes attempt before the data becomes erased, very on par with your BlackBerries out there. Set up device restrictions. So prevent the use of the camera if we wanted to, and you'll see that dynamically also remove the FaceTime application. So various device restrictions that Apple allows you to do. Location restrictions. Location restrictions would be based on the name and the app. So if I found that my Android or my iOS was running that barcode scanner software and I didn't want to allow that as a corporate entity, I'd go ahead and enter that information in here. To define a myriad of different wireless configurations as well as VPN configurations. About the VPN configuration is Cisco IPsec is built directly into the iOS devices. If you are using AnyConnect or Juniper SSL, you will need to download their agents from the App Store for configuration. Standard email for POP and IMAP, which is somewhat popular for folks still using GroupWise. Our active sync settings. And here you see that because I configured this on the way in, I'm able to already see that information that's there. I'm going to change my email synchronization to 3 days. The last 6 options you're seeing here are some of the advanced options that Apple allows you to configure for payload perspective. The most popular one that our customers use are web clips. And web clip is just an easy way for you to send a URL or a link down to your iOS device with a particular name. To do that for your corporate intranet or any type of internal connections you may use. save and publish, we validate your passcode information. Also add an audit history. So I'm just going to do passcode no camera here to make a note for myself. I'm going to leave the show me the differences before publishing checked. And what this does is essentially shows you everything that you've changed, so you can do a quick review to make sure that it's what you want it to be. So camera, added my 3 days. That's good to me, so I'm going to click confirm publish. This is validation and ensure all the printers play nice together and publish that policy. One thing to keep in mind as we talk about policies, it's relatively important to have test policies in your population so that you don't make inadvertent changes to all your devices. So we always recommend a test policy for new items before you deploy into your production environment. The Android policy is a little bit different in terms of what Google offers by Apple, as opposed to Apple. Here you can see that the passcode quality is enabled. Number of items here, so I'll just do numeric again to keep in par with my iPhone policy. From the perspective, if the device for Android 3 or higher supports the encryption, we can force the user to set that and use that functionality. And you'll also see many of the items on the Androids in terms of being user controlled. So if I did not want passwords to ever be visible when they were typed into an application or into a form, I could set that to disabled and prevent the user from being able to change the option. The devices are a bit different in terms of the device features versus the location detection policies. You can enable background data synchronization to always be enabled. You do not want to allow data roaming, so I'm going to turn that off. Find these devices, so I'm going to enable both of those options. This is all dependent on your environment and you would like to set it up. Communication restrictions with Android as we can with iOS. These are also supported in case you wanted to deploy any type of mobile device, mobile to these devices. This is a bit more restrictive on an Android perspective. So right now, currently only the Motorola devices that support the EDM API are supporting this, and that's just an IPsec connection. Change ActiveSync on the Androids, we have two options. To integrate with NitroDesk's live software, the 6.5 version, which is called Touchdown. And of course, Touchdown is its own application that has email contacts and calendar for the user to manage outside of the corporate settings. It also has some encryption. We can certainly pass along some additional information on the NitroDesk integration. The license key only if you're going to use Touchdown, but you set the name of your Exchange server and your SSL information here. The option for Android is device management. Here we allow you to take some additional actions on the devices. If somebody tries to remove our app or remove us as the administrator, I say I want to do a wipe on a device if you disable the administrator. And enforcement actions is the amount of time before the end user ignores your policy change before you can take an action as well. So selective wipe and do nothing. In our upcoming release, actually this weekend, we will be having additional options added there as well. Note on the Android perspective is we're really not able to force the user to do anything based on the API. So what we do is send down the policy change, notified, and they'll be bothered until they take it. One add-on services we have is our compliance rules engine. The compliance rules engine lets you keep a bit more control over that as well. And save and publish this particular policy here. I changed, so I'm not going to save the differences. We'll go through the validation process and making sure everything fits together nicely. Great. Okay, well, I'm going to go back to my home page at this point, and we should see that all the check marks are green. After 20 minutes, about 25 minutes or so, with me talking in between, we've been able to fully set up and get enrolled into MaaS360. The a look at are the actual devices and some of the information that gets pulled back on those devices. First, the iPhone. And for both the iPhone and the Android, you'll be presented with a list of hardware inventory, some network information, and your security and compliance info. This is the summary level, and if you wanted to drill into any of these items, you can click on the summary drop-down and go into the various tabs that we offer. So here's additional information about that particular phone. We have a feature where you can add custom attributes. So to allow your finance or billing folks into the MaaS360 to do any type of purchasing or warranty management, you can do that at a read-only level. Take up a warranty number here just to show you where we log all of this information. And today, here I'm just going to click the Save button. That we integrate here are your network and location. So here you'll be able to see what type of located in terms of the network type and what home carrier and whatnot is. The customers like to look at the software installed, and unfortunately I don't have any software installed on this particular iPhone as it was just wiped this morning. But here you'll see with the Android when we look at it that you're able to pull back the name, the ID, and some versioning and sizing information. Your device management information, so you can have visibility into the device. Now, we also have a certain set of actions available for iOS. One is refresh device information. So if you did a troubleshooting call to your help desk and need to help an end user with their device, you could send a simple refresh to data back in. Lock to the device in case the user leaves it somewhere. You can set a remote lock, and then upon unlock, they would be prompted to deal with their password. To reset the device passcode. Now, what the reset does from an iOS perspective is we'll clear the password from the phone, so handy if somebody forgets their password, and then policy would force them to reset that information. The wipe option is available to remove any email, any wireless, or any VPN profiles that we may have pushed down during the enrollment process. And this is handy if the user is out of compliance and not taking any necessary action to fix themselves. So it's almost like putting somebody in the penalty box for a certain period of time. After you initiate the selective wipe, the option will change into revoke selective wipe so you can restore those settings automatically. From a full wipe on the device to iTunes, so use them with caution, and change iOS policy. So we need a new policy, which I want to move my iPhone into right now for the purposes of our demo. And I'm going to go ahead and change the policy, move to core policy, and you can track all of this information here. I'm going to click yes. We're going to update our credentials again, indicating that that action has been initiated. What I wanted to cover here was the remove iOS control. Now, the remove iOS control allows you to leave the user free and clear of a personal device. So remove any settings you push to it, as well as us as the device administrator. I can show you now, since we have some data populated, as our change history. You can see when my phone became active, and you can also see any type of changes I've made to my attributes. So here we log the date, who it was made by, what IP address they were coming from, and what they changed. Action history gives you an audit log of all of the actions that you've taken. So here you can see that I moved myself into a new policy and completed. I'll show you that on the phone. If you remember, we took away the camera and passcode. And relaunch my VNC here real quick. I apologize for that. But I'll just state so you can take a look at the policy as it came down. Back up with us. And here you can see that I'm being forced to set a passcode. And you also notice that the camera is gone. It's the screen where it used to be. So the device automatically was updated with that information. and trackable as well. Back to the results so we can take a look at some of the Android information. At the time, I won't actually push anything down to it, but you'll see some of the similar information in terms of our summary. Additional options that Android allows us to report on is the specifics of the operating system. So this is a rooted device, which we will see in the security and compliance information here. So tell my device is rooted. Invisible passcodes because I sent a policy update down to that particular phone. I have not applied any type of wipe or selective wipe, and I can also pull back our passcode settings, the link information, as well as the application and device features. Example of the software installed. So here we do have a couple pieces of software on this particular device, and you can see the name, and the ID is actually what you would use to restrict the applications in the Android and iOS policies. Here we have a full version, our size and our data footprint, and then where the install location is. Services on an Android. So here we can see my Bluetooth, an Android keyboard. We can see MaaS360 and some other items. And also have the same change in action history to track particular devices. Next thing we'll look at are some of the Android actions. So here I can also do a refresh. I can locate. The location on Android, we'll give it a shot here. I believe my GPS is turned on and everything. So it takes a few moments, but I'll talk through some of the other items as we go. Here it located me already, so we're in our blue offices here, so kind of interesting. So we're going to close out of the graph here, but you can see how you could easily locate a lost or stolen device. Send a message down to the Android, and this is using the notification mechanism through the C2DM network. So a little MaaS360 pop-up on the top of your phone. We'll go to send message here. First, get my VNC connection back up to my Android device. A second. Some wireless is not the most reliable communication format. So we'll get connected here. Real quick since we do have a little bit of time. It looks like that is not going to let us happen here for a second.
Next month.
Yeah, next month. I think I just need to put the port in actually. There we go. So we'll do this quick. Sorry about the So just say hello and welcome to MaaS360. And we'll go ahead and say yes. Passcode. Pull our Android back up. You can see in the upper right-hand corner already, we have the MaaS360 notification, and you have the message. And if I want to say that, I can say hello. So it's a very easy way to put a message down to a device. It works on the BlackBerry devices. We will have the capability soon from an iOS side for both sending messages and for location detection, which will require our app, which will be fully available towards the end of the month here. I wanted to show you, since we did get the device back for the Android, is you'll also now see a list of the out-of-compliance actions based on the policies that I changed. Here, we're asking the user to change their passcode. They can have a PIN or a passcode. I'm just going to do something very simple here. Passcode requirements, I would see that we need to add at least one of those. So this way, we can force people to change the other one. So I'm going to turn on GPS from this side. I'm going to go back to my settings, and where we're everything else. So now if I go into MaaS360, I should see I'm back in compliance. Back to the MaaS, and a refresh of that device information. devices out of compliance. And next refresh, those items will go away because we did actually become compliant again. Back to some of the other items here. We can lock the device. From an perspective, the reset device passcode works a little bit different. So if you remember on iOS, I said you could just do a clear. He actually set a new passcode for that user, and you'll see that it's based on our passcode link that we set. VoIP capabilities, device, and it can also allow you to change the policy or remove MaaS360 as that administrator. With our action history now that we've tracked our message that we sent and it's completed. So a good audit trail of everything that's going on. We updated our record, our device is back into compliance, and we don't have any reasons for failure. So those actually are the items that you get for the iOS and Android management. If you layer on some of our other technologies, we do allow you to interact with your Exchange server, move devices, to do wipes, and to change active sync policies. With Traveler, we're also able to use their black and white functionality. And from a BlackBerry perspective, integration with your BES server would allow you to enroll devices, just like we did on iOS and Android, and view the inventory information about that device, as well as do the actions such as a lock, a passcode reset, setting a PIN or a password message, or remotely wiping that device. I wanted to touch on before we open it up for any questions that you may have are device groups. A robust engine and system that you can get into. To look first at our device groups and find groups of information to allow you to be able to take actions on groups. So here you can see Android devices, corporate-owned versus employee, iPads versus iPhones. Inside, you have actions that you can take on those groups. You wanted to create a particular attribute to allow a certain policy to be applied to your executives when they enrolled. You could set up ahead of time and apply a particular policy to that group, so that would be a bit more automated. Now, you can also create new device groups based on our attributes. So, active devices in the last 7 days. I want to look for all of my particular phones. So I'm going to say, use contains VH, and 2 devices. I can save this search as a device group so I can take an action on it later if I want, or if I just always want to look at my groups. You do a public group or a private group. Now, a public group will be available for anyone in your company who logs into the portal. It will be only available to your administrator. So, the device groups, I'm able to see that devices are now here. And if to take a particular action on that device group, I could. Earlier, some of the custom attributes. If there were additional attributes that you wanted to add, you're able to go in and add a custom attribute. So maybe I have an employee ID number that I want to track. Call that my employee GUID. I can type. So we'll make that a number and hit add. I'll then add this to the list here, and to one of my devices. Do that using our Smart Search, which is also a quick way to access your data within MaaS360 if you're working from a help desk perspective. Look now at our hardware inventory tab where we have our additional parameters. See here that my new and if I wanted to edit that, I'm now available to do so. What I wanted to touch on is our reporting engine. The reports are not real time in terms of with the 15-minute device windows that we have, but I'm reporting every night to consolidate that information into various views for you. So we have some summary level items for the mobile device overview, which shows you information about your entire environment and devices, types of devices broken up by iPhone, by Android, by BlackBerry, by Windows etc. And then go into the individual iOS hardware and software, as well as the Android hardware and software. Reports encompass all of your devices, including our mobile or desktop management agents that we offer. So it's a very easy way to take a look at your overall inventory as well as your overall security posture. With that, I will turn it over to Joe for any questions that may have popped up that we need to answer. So if you guys need anything, please drop a note into the chat windows.
Well, I'm kind of breathless listening to you. You've kind of plowed a lot of information there in about 40 minutes, but a couple things that I think are significant before we jump over to questions. One, everything Val just did was out of our production environment. So, what you saw, what you kind of experienced, the performance, the functionality, that's up live. That's what every customer or prospect who's taking a trial of MaaS360 is experiencing right now. So we think that's just a huge benefit of our cloud model. For those of you who are wondering how we did it, although you may have guessed, we used VNC to show you the handsets and happening there, because it just makes for a better demo. So people always ask, how'd you do that? Well, what we did was we installed VNC software devices, and then Val has a VNC viewer on her laptop that she then logs into those devices from. The only downside to all that is the devices need to be rooted or jailbroken in order to run that VNC server software. So it's not a perfect solution, but we've got a few extra handsets laying around here that we can use for that purpose, so we go ahead and do it. So a couple questions rolling in here. So one is information shown by MDM exportable?
Would be yes. You are able to export the information from a device or from our reporting system for additional data manipulation on your side.
So you can export them in CSV format or XLS format. So any of the raw device data, the device attribute data can be exported. You can export the graphs from the dashboards if you're putting together some kind of a PowerPoint. And I think you can also export the audit history and configuration change history.
Correct.
If you need that for some kind of a compliance audit you're going through.
And I can do to show that quickly as well is we do capture an overall audit history of everything that we've done on the devices. So I did show you the audit history based on an individual device. So you're able to see everything, and then as Joe was alluding to, you can export that data here just by clicking on the export button.
Question coming in to ActiveSync for MaaS360 devices. Do we have an security device to handle the EAS traffic, or does I don't know what the last part of the question is here, but the question is, do we need some kind of an edge security device for EAS traffic?
The answer to that actually is no. We don't require any type of appliance to be installed at your location. We leverage our Cloud Extender software, which is a small piece of software that would be installed on a server or a workstation in your environment, that run our Cloud Extender and be configured to talk to your Exchange server. We're leveraging PowerShell commandlets to be able to communicate with your PowerShell or with your Exchange server, so the account would need to be permissioned properly to do so. And that data is collected based on predetermined intervals of scripts and passed into MaaS360. We're able to provide additional detail to lock down that communication if your company needs it.
Coming in is about kind of a group administration question. Is it possible to set custom attribute values based on groups or in groups?
That's a good question, and today that is not possible. We do allow you to export that data from a group, though, and massage it and then re-import it. That's a good suggestion that we will take down, so thanks for the feedback.
And just to a little bit of wet your eyes a little bit for things that are in the pipeline here. We are working very hard on, I'll say, tightening the bonds between Active Directory group, role-based administration, and MaaS360. So the thought being, or the request we get often from customers is, as I do think my users in Active Directory, can the appropriate changes on their devices be made automatically in MaaS360, so I don't have to go in and make changes to systems. So we get the request a lot. We hear you. We've got some good things in progress, and hopefully next month or two you'll see some of that in action here when demos. Question coming in: are we able to monitor internet history or apply internet filtering policies on devices? So the answer is no. We don't do those things today. We do have partnerships with companies that provide cloud-based, content filtering, especially for, for example, school districts in kind of the education marketplace. They're typically without a standard called CIPA, I think it's Child Internet Protection Act, and so they're often concerned about whether or not they prevent kids who take tablets home, because we're seeing a lot of school districts starting to deploy tablets, and they want to be able to take them home. And we're worried about are the kids, when they're at home, they can filter the content when these tablets are on the local LAN of the school, but once they leave and kids from home, they're not necessarily going through any content filtering. So yes, we do some partners that can provide content filtering if that's important. I would assume that's in a education environment. Question about support for application distribution. So I'll let you tackle that one if you want.
We do allow application distribution for both the Androids and the iOS devices. For iOS, we're doing that via application that gets installed on the iOS device itself. And in MaaS360, you're able to browse to apps in the iTunes place, or able to files that you may have developed in-house, and then you can deploy those down to individual devices or groups of devices or to everybody. It's very similar from an Android perspective. We do leverage the app that you saw be installed during our demo that we walked through. Again, you're able to push down market apps just by quickly typing in the name and pulling that back, or uploading any custom APK that you may have had.
Great, thanks. A general question here: what is the BES integrator? Or maybe a different way to ask it is, how do we integrate with BlackBerry Enterprise Server?
Sure. So if you have a BlackBerry Enterprise Server running version 5 or higher, we're able to leverage the BlackBerry administration APIs to pull data from that server using the Cloud Extender. So what you would do is install the Cloud Extender, as we were talking about earlier, and configure to talk to your BlackBerry server via the URL for your management instance. And that be parsed and pulled into MaaS360 on a device information, and be able to manage that device with some of the reporting we looked at earlier, message history, some inventory, as well as actions that you can take, resetting a passcode, locking the device, removing the device. The last part of the BlackBerry integration is actually enrolling new BlackBerries. You're able to initiate an enrollment request for MaaS360. Information in the enrollment request, we will create that user in your BlackBerry server and send the enterprise activation code down so it can be managed.
And just kind of so folks understand kind of the way this all works architecturally, by installing one instance of the Cloud Extender, an instance could talk simultaneously to an Exchange environment, a BlackBerry Enterprise Server environment, and a Traveler environment, and also an Active Directory environment. So it could talk to all 4 of those servers simultaneously via one instance of the software. And just so you folks know, most of our customers will install that software on a virtual machine, on a server they've got somewhere. So it doesn't a lot of requirements, and most of our customers run it in a VM somewhere. what's nice about that architecture, if you were at our webinar last week, we did a webinar on MDM in a post-BlackBerry world. And what we see a lot of is companies, when they walk in the door, they'll either have a complete BlackBerry infrastructure, meaning that they've got corporate provision devices that are typically BlackBerry that they manage here through BES, and may have a handful of other devices that they manage through Exchange ActiveSync. And what they do by virtue of installing the Cloud Extender is bring those devices under one management umbrella, as well as give them a way to start managing personal devices like iPhones, iPads, Androids that these are bringing into the company and want to use, but the corporation may not have a good way to do it, or may not have the tools for managing and securing them that make them feel comfortable letting them be used. So that's kind of really what one of the key values of the Cloud Extender and the BES integration is. It gives you a migration path from a complete BlackBerry-only environment to one that allows BlackBerries, allows legacy devices like Windows Mobile via ActiveSync, as well as puts you on a path for employee-owned devices that are going to typically be iOS and Android today.
And to showcase what Joe is describing briefly, if you give me 1 second, I can log into one of our demo areas and show you how all that data will look parsed together with MaaS360. One user who has every device under the sun here that we can take a look at. Our demo area, Jim actually has a smartphone, a laptop, BlackBerry, so you're able to see all the devices in this one listing just by typing a few characters.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. Another question came in about whether managed service providers can manage multiple inside of this. And so for the folks who asked that, I'm going to take this one because I actually run our partnership programs as well. So we do a lot of work with retailers, our resellers, and our service providers who are partners. And if you are a managed provider and you think you want to offer MDM services, it's something we do, and we have many partners who we do it with. And the port itself has a complete hierarchical model that it implements. So you have a master account that would give you scope to administer any account that was chained underneath of your master account hierarchy. So I think the answer is yes, you could have a single sign-on that would let you manage any account that was a customer of yours. We'll keep this open for a couple of more minutes here. Any other questions? Now would be a great time to send them in. A little bit. There's a question about Windows 2003 support. So the answer here is we don't support Exchange 2003. I don't think we care so much. I frankly don't know if there's a Windows 2003 server, but the extender is built. It integrates to Exchange through PowerShell. Sorry, PowerShell was not available until Microsoft released Exchange 2007. And frankly, there's a very good reason we did that. I mean, that's one of the reasons why the extender is such a lightweight thing, because it's got a lightweight method of integrating with Exchange and Active Directory. We kind of, at this point, think kind of history's on our side here. I think 2003 is approaching 10 years old, and so we're seeing more and more companies move off it anyway.
Just to add on to the point there, you can install the Cloud Extender on a Windows 2003 server as long as PowerShell and the Exchange management tools are there. So pretty flexible in terms of our requirements on a server and a workstation side, depending on which integration point you'd like to use.
Okay, one last call here for questions. We're close to just about finishing up with our hour. All right. So I wanted to thank everyone for joining. Thanks for your time. If you've got questions, feel free to reach out to Val or I. Our email address, I think we're in that last slide of the deck. Next week, I take that back. Next week, Dyma is going to be hosting a webinar on enabling iPhones and iPads in the enterprise. So this is a replay of a webinar we try to do once a quarter because it's always popular. And if you're really trying to figure out how your company can start using iPhones and iPads in a secure and manageable way, Donna, so she'll show you kind of the different ways it can be done, including with MaaS360, although that's certainly not the only way. And then 2 weeks after that, on August 4th, we're going to be talking about how to use MaaS360 to automate compliance for mobile devices. So this one is what I would call MDM 201. I think this webinar is kind of MDM 101, not to identify what we covered, but it's kind of more advanced techniques that Val kind of brushed on in our today, but really get into the details of, all right, set up automated compliance rules to ensure that the actions you need to take place on mobile devices as their compliance status changes get enforced. So that'll be a good one as well if you want to kind of learn some other capabilities of MaaS360 and MDM in general. So thank you for your time. We've recorded this webinar and we'll be posting it probably tomorrow. And hope to see you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.